Welcome back to Desert Sun Crypto. I'm your host, the Desert Sun. Boy, was Twitter lit up today. I've got a lot to share with you if you're not on Twitter and social media isn't your thing. I'd say today is probably the most lively and exciting it's been in quite some time. So let's get into it. I just want to start off first with CoinMarketCap. Uh, we've got Bitcoin still below 30K, Ethereum over 3, Cardano just below $3, and XRP above a dollar. So Mark Cuban got into it, and he's been just responding to everything Gary Gensler has just to send out. It's quite entertaining. I've said before, I'm not a huge fan of Mark Cuban. I'm slowly becoming a huge bandwagon Mark Cuban fan. So let me just show you. So Gary Gensler set up a Twitter account recently, which is hilarious. And he's been tweeting, information and making a stance and trying to speak to um, what he believes are his the constituents, his people, and everyone just lights him up. Certainly, Mark Cuban, but Gary Gensler says if someone asks a lawyer, accountant, or an advisor if something is over the line, maybe it's time to step back from the line. Going right up to the edge of a rule or searching for some ambiguity in text or a footnote may not be consistent with the law and its purpose. He's referring to something in particular with regard to the Ripple lawsuit, which I'll get to. Oh my gosh, this has been all over the place. And Mark Cuban responds, how about making the lines bright and clear so people know where the rules are? People, the problem isn't that people aren't looking for gray areas. It's that there rarely are defined rules. Regulation through litigation traps all the people who can't afford a lawyer, accountant, or advisor. Slow clap from Mark Cuban. You tell him. I mean, Gary Gensler's talking like the only people he's ever stepped in a room with or talked to, are you know uh, his buddies at Goldman Sachs, which is probably the case. But what a arrogant thing to send out here, Gensler. But good for Mark Cuban. He's been firing back. I'm always interested to see, um, you know, uh, moving forward, all the responses he'll give to Gary Gensler. Now, so the Ripple response to the SEC opposition to motion to compel. If you're unfamiliar with what's been going on with the Ripple lawsuit, in the abridged version that I'll give you is the end of last year, the SEC said that Ripple, after years of being unclear, is a security, which Ripple is not. So they say. So they have been going to court over whether a security over asset, among other things. Going back to the SEC not giving clarity under William Hinman, who was deposed recently. And in this, in this released um, uh, motion, or sorry, in this release response, it goes into some details on, what exactly may have been expressed or shared. And so let me go down to oh yeah, this footnote 2 right here is basically what everyone's circling around. The SEC repeatedly mischaracterizes the deposition testimony from Mr. Hinman and Ripple's counsel motion to strike non-responsive testimony. At his deposition, Mr. Hinman was asked about discussions concerning the application of the federal securities law to digital assets. His response focused exclusively on XRP, but there was no motion to strike that response. Ripple's counsel then re-asked about such discussions other than those concerning XRP, and Mr. Hinman again ignored the question and gave an answer that referred exclusively to SRP. Ripple's counsel moved to strike solely this second duplicative response because I asked you to find a recollection of meetings that didn't involve XRP. And referring to the tape and the deposition, notably, Mr. Hinman's testimony is refuted by the SEC's own communications to the public as late as October 2020 that the SEC had made no determination as to XRP status. And they go on to share one of a Frank Mossman tweet. And the SEC's own filing in his case brought the XRP holders now seeking to intervene in the case. Jumping down a bit, Mr. Hinman's personal views as to XRP status are dubious in any event, given his testimony that not all of the factors laid out in Howey need to be met to be an investment contract in the end of that footnote. Now, invoking Twitter there just set people off today. And I've got to hand it to Digital Asset Buy. Go give him a follow. He just lit it up, and I'll show you with some of the things he shared. Plus, a new character that undoubtedly is going to be popping up in your feed for quite some time. Now, as far as Ripple, our newly anointed spokesman for the XRP Army, BitBoy, chimed in on a prediction he had made about the settlement happening with Ripple in September.
They've asked for the discovery in the case to be pushed back to November 21st. And a lot of people have been saying, well, BitBoy, I heard that you said this was going to be over by the middle of September. And I think it still is going to be. I asked about that this morning. I said, look, this doesn't look good if they're saying that, this is going to extend all the way until, November of this year. How is it going to be September? That's 2 months later. And what I was told is basically the legal system right now is dragging their feet, but everything is still the plan. Right now, what's going on is a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we're not seeing. The plan is still the middle of September. So that's pretty bold for me to say that at this point. I'm pretty confident in that information, but I'm not 100% confident on it, like I am on some other things that we've told you.
So there you have it. He's skeptical and, just giving a roll of the dice just like everybody else. I wanted to play that because everyone's been playing a lot of BitBoy crypto. And, I appreciate him coming with XRP, but he only knows what he knows, and I'll leave it at that. Now, jumping over this gentleman right here, Robert Jackson. Oops, sorry about that. If you don't know who he is, you'll probably be seeing him a lot soon. Sorry about that. I got a little bit of a dry throat, but that's all right. I'll manage to work through this. SEC Commissioner Robert J. Jackson. Okay, he was the commissioner from January 11th, 2018 to February 14th, 2020. I'm giggling and you will too if you know and see where this is going. Just to kind of cover, where he came from. He's an outspoken advocate for protecting investors. Made his name known in Silicon Valley, Wall Street. A little bit of his background, Columbia Law School, on and on and on. MBA at University of Penn. This guy, I kid you not, reminds me of Ryan Gosling in The Big Short. Let me play the clip of Ryan Gosling, and then I'll show you the clips. This is incredible.
Okay, Mr. Bennett, here we have.
Let's see what you got.
You smell that? What is that?
What?
What's that smell?
The cologne?
No.
Opportunity.
No. Money.
Oh, okay.
I smell money.
Okay.
Chris.
Damn it. Sorry.
This is your basic mortgage bond.
So if you've seen this movie, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, check it out. Interesting movie on the financial collapse. But let me jump over and get right into it. Here is Robert Jackson. Now, aside from him being right like Ryan Gosling, I just need to use that because that's who you remind me of. He has literally been all over Twitter, and they're showing all these clips of him just months before the Hyman speech, and where he basically um, uh, implicates himself with regard to the Ripple case. So let me play these clips, and then I give you my 2 cents.
ICOs. It's a little bit different, but in the same in the same lane.
Well, look, if I were to give investing advice on Bitcoin, it's not something I can do in my current role, and it'd also be worth what you paid for it. What I'll say about Bitcoin in general is that that space, as I hinted earlier, has been full of troubling developments that we've seen at the SEC, and especially the ICO space. That makes me worry that we're having a hard time, or I should say investors are having a hard time, telling the difference between investments and fraud.
What could the SEC do to make it clearer?
Well, we've been doing a lot in the ICO space. So the chairman, Jay Clayton's been very good about this. He has been out there very clearly, and this is what he said, and I agree with him. He said that he hasn't seen an ICO yet that's not a security. And we get all kinds of different manifestations and proposals, and I'm with him. I haven't seen one of these yet that's not a security. You know, one of the things about ICOs that's interesting is if you want to know what our markets would look like with no securities regulation, what it would look like if the SEC didn't do its job, the answer is the ICO market.
I want to have whatever that guy's drinking. Man, is that guy lit. And let's check out one of the other clips where he is on fire.
Because actually, I think it's better for an emerging technology like this to set some standards. And Stu, I know you agree because you work at Ripple, one of the leaders in the industry. Actually, one of the firms that has been crucial to the forming of standards around the various securities law questions, et cetera. And how did we get from here to there? Because you guys can call him in, and Val and all the other amazing people who do what they do and get answers to your questions. Because actually, I think it's better for an emerging technology like this to set some standards. And Stu, I know you agree because you work at Ripple, one of the leaders in the industry.
Boom. Here is Jackson saying, basically, XRP's got his shit together. Here we go. Now, I'm telling you, this was clip after clip.
And I gotta tell you, just so you know, in my job, it can be very, very hard to get an unbiased perspective from someone in the marketplace who says, Rob, we need to know what this rule, how this is going to work. Or we read Hinman's speech on what is a security, and we don't understand where we fall on that spectrum. Or we think the speech is wrong, or we don't understand this footnote in it, and all those things. It is harder than you might think for me to get that perspective from the marketplace. When you come in and talk to Val, we get information about what the right rule looks like. And you help us do our job better. And I gotta tell you, just
I wanted to play it again, but they quote it here saying, Rob, we need to know what this ruling, how this is going to work. We read Hinman's speech on what is a security, and we don't understand where we fall on that spectrum. Again, no clarity whatsoever. Gary Gensler, you're wrong. I want to get into, again, a fireside chat by Rob Jackson. I pulled the clip just so you could see it better. This was all over the place as well. Rob, take it away.
For you to know this, but there's a little legal detail here that the definition of a security or secure investment contract is defined by the Supreme Court case called Howey. And if you're a securities, no offense, but if you're a securities nerd, you know, right? I mean, come on, I feel like they know, man. Yeah. So we named it Howey Coin. And we did a fake ICO. And I'm telling you, man, if you Google this, look on Reddit, there's people like, hey, is this a great idea? And then they're like, wait, maybe it's fake. And the picture of like we had a white paper describing the idea. And the picture is like the guy, the SEC staffer who ran it. So they looked at his picture and then they compared it to LinkedIn, and they're like, the LinkedIn thing is like his SEC page. It was like, I think it's the same guy.
So this was shown in a part of this clip, which I'm going to jump up to here if you indulge me. All right. I was able to find it. But let me jump back over to Twitter because they actually chop it up in the clips a lot better. Let me blow it up for you so you get a better view of it. Again, Take it away, Rob.
guidance we put out in this area has informed that difference. Now, one more thing. You mentioned cryptocurrency. What's important about that is to realize that the way that cryptocurrency works when it is, and this is what Bill Hinman's speech says, so I'm not adding too much, depends fundamentally on how centralized or decentralized the underlying network is that supports that currency. And that's also true in the ICO context. Bill has said a lot about that, about ways that practitioners can look in that area and get a sense for whether or not we should think of that as a security. And I point people to that speech. Do you think we've been clear enough about that? Yeah.
No. There's two things right there. First, he's talking about Hinman defining, being clear. And here's this guy earlier. He's talking to him and asked him point blank, have we been clear? Absolutely not. So I'm going to go back to it. The more and more I look at this, the more I'm scratching my head wondering, what is the SEC and why is the SEC going through the lengths that they are with Ripple other than a setup regulation and draw this out as much as possible, and in the process get everybody else dialed in and familiar with crypto as much as possible. That's the only way I see this thing panning out. So make of it what you will. Definitely check out Twitter. I'm telling you folks, I wasn't a big person on Twitter, but man, there's some interesting dialogue and some incredible research that's going on right now. So thank you very much for tuning in to Desert Scent Crypto. That's all I've got this episode, folks. Check me out again later or tomorrow, and I promise I won't disappoint. Have a good one.